G'day everyone. We had a great chat with Randal Breen. Now, he and his wife Juanita own and run Echo Valley Farms, and we had a great chat about their regenerative process and how they're going through about making their property better and bringing it back to the way it used to be. They're using poultry, beef, and pork to actually get these things happening, as well as doing what they were talking about is opportunistic planting. So it was a great chat. We learned a lot. We had a lot of laughs as well at the same time. I hope you enjoy it. I know I did, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi everyone, welcome to Eco Convos with Dan. I'm your host Dan Vanderhoek, and we are here live-ish. We're here in Century 21 Platinum Agent Studios, but we are also in Randal's place at Echo Valley Farm. Randal, mate, thank you for coming along and having a chat with us today.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Looking forward to having a good old yarn.
Fantastic, buddy. We you're down there at your place. You're going through. You're doing regenerative agriculture. And you're working with that with pasture raised pigs, and you're doing that with poultry as well, mate. How long have you been doing that?
Yeah, mate, we have been here on our farm here in the Goomburra Valley on Bunjalung country. We've been here since 2014.
Okay.
So yeah, that's 7 years.
Right.
Yeah, we've been working our system and developing it and fine tuning it and learning a lot of lessons along the way.
Is it something that you're from an agricultural background?
No, mate, no. Juanita and I, my partner, we're first generation farmers. This is sort of our first foray into agriculture. So yeah, after a little hiatus, we had a small farm not far from this one, about 2 hours northeast. And yeah, we sort of went there after working for a number of years in Brisbane.
Yeah.
Spent 6 years there, and then we came here, and we moved to this farm specifically with a focus on developing a regenerative agroecological farm. We both wanted to farm full time, and so that was our endeavour. And yeah, about 4 years ago, we managed to make that shift, and so we're now generating 100% of our income from on-farm enterprises.
Mate, that's a big leap to go, and actually, well done for taking that step. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's had its moments, but yeah, we're very happy with the journey we've taken.
Okay, so was there what was the turning point for you to say, well, this is what I want to do? This is I want to be able to do something more on the ethical side of things, and moving us forward with the land. Was there a light bulb moment for you, or a turning point in particular?
Yeah, probably. I guess both Juanita and I have a background in community development, social science. So we're pretty motivated and passionate about building community. And so, you would think that farming and community building doesn't really make any sort of connection. But when we moved to our farming enterprise, once we moved onto the land and started to look at how could we possibly make a living from agriculture, and we started to explore concepts like regenerative agriculture, stacked integrated farming systems, like the great Joel Salatin teaches about. We just found our fit. And so there was no major health issue or, a lot of talk within regenerative agriculture sort of talks about a moment in time that sort of shift. But when we were looking for how we would fit into agriculture, when we found regenerative ag, stacked integrated farming models, and then finally agroecology, it just aligned with our core values as people and how we wanted to fit within the broader world and society. An agricultural model that is focused on building soil health, but building diversity within our farming community was something that just made sense to us.
Mate,
so that's basically why we adopted the models that we have.
Yeah, well, it really does run the whole gamut then too, doesn't it? What you're doing, it's not just about building up the soil. It's having having the produce that's going to come out. It's going to come out good quality. It's going to come out with the essentially better nutritional benefits as well, because the health is there from literally from the ground up.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So yeah, we're trying to build a deep and intimate relationship is what we talk about. A deep and intimate relationship with both our landscape, the animals that live upon it, the broader ecology that we live within, and then the community of who we feed. So we're trying to build deep and intimate relationships with all of those things.
That's fantastic, mate. So can you give us a little bit of a snapshot of your farm? How big is it, and what are you actually running on it at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said earlier, our farm resides in Bundjalung country, which is just over the Great Dividing Range. So if you were heading from Brisbane, heading southwest, you come up over the Cunningham Gap, and we're down in a little valley down in there, and that's in the Southern Downs region. We sit at about 650 metres in altitude. 350 acres. We've got, it's an undulating farm, so if you picture a sort of rolling country, not real steep, got steeper sections. Half of it is still has a lot of remnant vegetation, which is sort of gums and grey box and ironbark. And then there's about 150 acres of previously heavily farmed country that we're slowly restoring back to perennial grasslands. And the soil is a really rich chocolate clay loam.
Lovely.
Pretty fertile. Yeah.
Was it always like that before you started doing what you were doing, or did you buy it like that, or is that as a part of the processes that you've been going through?
Yeah. So it's like a lot of the Darling Downs region, it's been heavily farmed over its life. We've got areas of our farm which we just recently looked at some old surveyors' plans from 1902. And in 1902, some of these paddocks, there's a paddock called the oat paddock. So if you consider to plant oats, you've got to plough the paddock. For 120 years, this landscape's been under the plough.
Wow.
So we've lost a huge amount of topsoil in some areas. In fact, some areas on our place, we are down to subsoil. There's no longer that rich chocolate.
The topsoil is not there.
Topsoil. We're down into the subsoil. So, there's been some farming practices that have probably damaged the landscape, and so one of our focuses is about restoration of that, particularly in the farm country. And so how we're doing that is we're using a range of livestock. So we're implementing what we call a stacked integrated farming system, where we sort of stack up different farming enterprises, and the focus is not just on generating produce for people to eat and to generate an income for us, but the whole focus of why we're doing it is because we see those enterprises as mutually beneficial to each other and also to the soil, because ultimately our focus is on building soil health.
Certainly, that really becomes one of those things. We're talking to people who are doing this as well, and they're not referring to themselves as cattle farmers or sheep farmers or anything anymore. They're soil farmers.
Yeah, that's exactly right, mate. Yeah, it's amazing. Once you start exploring, it's not just dirt. This sort of sterile planting medium, but it's soil, and there's so much life going on beneath our feet that we are only just starting to understand what's going on down there.
Most certainly.
And they talk about in a teaspoon of soil, there's more life going on in that teaspoon than there are humans on the planet. So there's a lot of stuff going on.
Absolutely, that's amazing. That's just straight on the bacterial level as well, isn't it? It's just there's just everything going on in there, and it works. It works its own ecosystem. Yeah,
exactly, mate. Bacteria, fungus, microbes. These pathways of communication that are going on between roots and living organisms within our soil, and if we can foster that and build that community and that relationship, then the ultimate end result is that our soil starts to build resilience, which grows more plants and feeds more animals and builds abundance in the ultimate end. So, and ultimately, a healthier, more nutrient-dense produce for us to enjoy.
That's right.
It's a win-win all round.
So, mate, you were talking about the biodiversity that you got on your property. What sort of animals are you running at? Do you have animals? Have you got fruit and veggies, or what have you got going on?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we probably should talk about that a bit, I suppose. We're talking about farming. So we have pastured poultry. So we run 2,000 pastured hens in flocks of 500. So 4 different flocks.
Yep.
500, and they're all in a 1 hectare space, which moves every 7 to 10 days.
Wow,
So they're what we call
ground.
our nomadic pastured hens.
Yeah.
So they're moving across our landscape. So their core role is about healing our landscape,
Yep.
sanitizing behind our cows, preparing our landscape for us. Because one of the things we do a lot, because we're trying to revive and over-farm paddocks that have been under the plough and you had chemical sprays on them for 120 years. So the big thing, we're trying to kickstart soil biology again. So those chooks are fundamental in the role of doing that. So their manure, which chooks do a lot of, by the way, for every 1,000 chooks, you get about 15 to 20 tons of chicken manure per year.
Wow.
For every 1,000 chickens you have on the landscape. So we're putting down about 40 tons of nutrient-rich fertiliser by way of chicken manure every year on our place. And what that's doing is feeding soil biology, feeding grass. So that's one of our enterprises. Then the other thing we have is grass-fed beef. So we run a holistic plant grazing operation with purebred Brangus cattle. Yeah. And so they're moving again nomadically across our landscape. We're moving them every 1 to 5 days across into new fresh pasture.
Yeah.
They live purely on grass. And then, well, when I say grass, it's diverse pasture. Yeah. And then we've got pasture pigs. And so those guys are living high up in our landscape, and their role is to transform food waste, or what we call yield stream, that we rescue from food processors in Brisbane, bring it back and feed it as food to our pigs that they then process through their stomach and then put out on our landscape and heal our soil that way.
Fantastic.
So they're our three core.
Yeah,
so they're our 3 core enterprises, and then on top of that, we do what we call opportunistic small cropping, which is where we actually plant a range of vegetables and produce into the pasture as we're planting our diverse cover crops, and then we'll harvest them prior to the animals grazing it. So things like pumpkins, radishes, beetroot, corn, beans. And so it doesn't look like your ordinary market garden with neat rows, but this stuff is all in amongst the stuff that we're growing in the paddock. And we'll just go through and opportunistically harvest those things, because what we're focused on is trying to heal our soil, but then we're also able to benefit from harvesting things out of that, which helps to cover the cost of planting the crop in the first place.
Well, that's it. And it's also, you're also getting, once again, that's another layer of biodiversity that you're adding in by doing that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll plant in behind our chickens a diverse cover crop of 15, 16, sometimes 20 different plant species. Yeah. And ultimately that's focused on building diversity within our soil. Like if you consider that this landscape for 120 years has grown nothing but single species monocultured cropping, usually cereals in the wintertime, so wheat, barley, oats, and in the summertime, sorghum and corn in this area. And now what we're doing is we're trying to build diversity, so we're planting multiple species. And then within that, we get to harvest, beautiful pumpkins, or we're currently at the moment we're harvesting daikon radishes, which go into restaurants in Brisbane. They turn them into all sorts of amazing projects for people to enjoy.
That's fantastic. So, mate, that's a whole lot of stuff that you're doing. It's got to be a lot to manage. Do you is it just the two of you doing it yourselves, or you got employees as well?
Yeah, mate, it keeps us on the hop. That's no doubt. But yeah, it's primarily Juanita and I, and our 2 kids, Eli and Bridie, and then we have a part-time farmhand, Sean, and we've just got a new person started with us, Amanda, who's 1 day a week, and she's a great asset to the farm as well. But primarily Juanita and I are full time, and we also we do the distribution of our produce as well. We deliver all that. So yeah, we're pretty busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're pretty passionate about trying to build. We believe that the diversity is what will give us resilience in the long term.
Yep.
And yeah, really help us to build that relationship with our landscape and our animals and our community, because we're pretty passionate about that process.
Certainly. I mean, it's got to be a good little bit of pocket money for the kids as well.
Yeah. They're pretty switched on to making sure they count the hours that they work these days. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, funny that. My guys are exactly the same. So,
yeah. I can't trick them into helping Dad anymore unless we negotiate hourly rates before we get started.
That's the way. No, they switch on early these days. So
yeah.
But in terms of what you've got, the work that you're doing, we've talked about the nutrient value that's there, and it is increased by having good quality pasture and good quality input. What's the what's the end product like? Are you finding that people are giving you good feedback in terms of taste and whatnot that's coming in? The reasons why they keep on coming back.
Yeah, for sure, mate. Yeah, I think so. I think there's no question that when people try products that's been, not only our farm but other people who are endeavouring to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I heard Matt Evans actually recently talk about the fact that the best measurer for nutrient density is our mouths. And so when we consume food that has been raised in an environment that's building nutrient density or building soil health and allowing things to grow slowly in their natural environment in a way that these animals can fully express their natural instincts, the result is that we have amazing tasting food, which is an indication of the nutrient density that's within that food.
That's a really fair point.
Yeah, one of the principles that helps direct the way that we farm is what we call our testing question. So we have the 4 goods which we sort of manage our farm on.
Yeah.
And I think that that is something that helps to bring about the end result of a highly nutrient dense and delicious food product. So our 4 goods is before we do anything on the farm, we look at the action that we're about to take and we ask ourselves, is this action or is this behaviour good for the animal, good for the land, good for the farmer, and ultimately good for the people that we're going to feed?
Yeah.
And so that sort of helps to really check what we're doing.
Yeah.
And help to ensure that we keep coming back to that, so that we don't end up practicing actions on the farm that might be detrimental to the animal or the land.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that system, and we set them in that order for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
Because we believe that if we ensure that what we're doing is good for the animal, and when we say good for the animal, it allows the animal to express their natural instincts. So cows are able to graze and nomadically move across the landscape, not spending a whole heap of time on bare ground in their own waste, but moving through the landscape eating fresh grass.
Yeah.
Chickens are allowed to express their inner chookiness and scratch, peck and chase bugs, and that pigs are allowed to dig, wallow and just express their natural pigginess, then ultimately they then produce a product that will be good for the person at the other end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, mate, so your 4 principles, that was animals, the land, the farmer, and community.
That's it.
Mate, that's fantastic. Now, you brought up Matt Evans, mate. So for those of us who don't know, who is Matt Evans?
Matt Evans, Fat Pig Farm.
Yeah.
He's down in Tasmania.
Yeah.
He's just someone who I just recently heard speak at an event, and it just caught my attention when he was talking about the fact that our mouth is a pretty good measure for nutrient density.
Mate, absolutely, mate. It's fantastic. Well, we'll have to look Matt Evans up as well. And is it people who have been gone before you that are doing this? Are they been set up as a bit of role models or inspiration for what you're doing, or how did this start for you?
Yeah, so a lot of the blame probably lands at the feet of Joel Salatin initially.
Okay.
So Joel Salatin was a farmer out of the US,
Yeah.
And he sort of really developed this stacked integrated farming model.
Yeah.
And then as we've continued on our journey and deepened our knowledge, and we've started to take in inspiration from a whole range of different people. From fellow farmers through to who are early on our journey, moving through and learning how to farm, through to more in-depth experienced farmers. So Gabe Brown in the States is someone who's really inspired us in relation to diverse cover cropping.
Yep.
He teaches a lot around the beauty of diversity in when we're planting seeds, trying not to plant monocultures, but build that diversity, which then builds soil health, because those plant species speak to each other under the soil through their roots and the exudates and the things that they secrete into the soil, which feeds the microbes and builds soil health.
Yep.
Some of the other people, Colin Syce is an Australian farmer who's sort of developed a practice called pasture cropping. I think you've had Stuart Andrews on talking about natural sequence farming.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
They're just a few of the people. Tammy Jonas down in Victoria who we've learned so much from about how to build CSA models, community supported agriculture, and how you can get your food to people in a way that's inclusive, democratic, and community focused.
Yep.
So there's so many people, and it's just such an amazing industry to be part of when we choose to move away from an industrial food system and start to embrace a community-directed, democratic food model.
Yeah.
I
think
that's what's really exciting.
I think it's one of those things that, everybody that we're speaking to talks about that level of community, and the fact that everybody, we're working together, and, rather than looking at the industrial scale, real commercialized ones, they've got that idea of this is me, and they've got their own trade secrets, and they've got their own ways of doing stuff. Whereas this is everybody's happy to learn, everybody wants to help.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really lovely about it, Dan, is that there's a group of us out there, and we're small. And to be honest, it's not an easy path to take.
No.
It's not. Oh, if you do this, you're going to be financially secure. Like it's a challenging, and every day throws up new things that you've got to try to overcome.
Yeah.
But what's amazing, so just recently this week, the weekend just gone, we had a farm event here, and it was a whole heap of farmers that came together to try to support each other.
Yeah.
Rather than and explore ways in which we can collaborate as small farmers to get our food to market, and how we can work out the problems that we're having, and find solutions with each other. So instead of seeing each other as competition and keeping those things to ourselves, we're looking at and openly sharing with each other about the process that we're using, so that collectively we can all bring nutrient dense food to the market, and build a genuine movement in the food system.
Mate, I think that's fantastic, and really, I mean, what's undeniable is that passion that you've got for this, for what you're doing, and it goes for the other guys we've had come on as well. That if you wanted to do this, it's not a get rich quick thing. It's the right thing to do, and it's a way to essentially moving everyone forward.
Yeah, that's it, mate. And as we build relationships with the people that we feed, we were talking earlier about an intimate relationship. Building relationships with the people that we feed helps to empower them to make those choices. Because ultimately, I can bang on here on our little farm and say, "Oh, this is how I'm going to farm."
Yep.
But if we can't build those relationships and show the people that we're feeding how this is such an important way forward to fix our climate crisis and our broader community, then I'm really I'll probably just slowly peter out and move on. But when we build these relationships and then empower the people that we're feeding, they make the choice and drive the change.
Absolutely.
So that's, I think that's what's so exciting. And it's just amazing to build those relationships with people. So, one of the things we do here on our farm is have open farm days where our customers come out to the farm and they plant trees for us, and we walk around and look at the animals. It's a truly transparent model So we're not hiding behind pretty pictures and then, have chickens in sheds somewhere.
No.
The chooks are out in the paddock 24/7.
But having those open days and whatnot is obviously a really, really important thing for getting the message out there and say, well, this is what we're doing, why we're doing it, and essentially why this is better for you. But you talk about having the farmer weekends and that community of other farmers around. What sort of outcomes are you guys getting from that?
Well, I think what's really amazing is that as we build those collaborative moments with the farmers, it's not only beneficial for us, but the other farmers come in, and then we're able to have a collective strength and power that can start to rival your industrial model. So if I was to give you an example, an industrial poultry shed might have 20,000 birds, and so they have to buy a lot of chook food. And so they can actually access that feed a lot cheaper than small farmers because they've got that buying power. This is that market-driven economy. So for me, with 2,000 hens, or other farmers with even less, say 500 pastured layers, we've got to pay top dollar.
That's right.
But if we can come together as a collective force, all of a sudden we can start to give that whole system a real nudge, because we can buy that product together and get at the same sort of buying power as maybe a big industrial system might have.
That's fantastic. So running essentially building that co-op between each other, that's the way to go.
And it's an amazing win, isn't it? Because we've moved from seeing each other as competitors and saying, oh well, I'm not going to share my grain with you, and we say, no, actually, if we all get together, we now collectively have the equivalent of what the big industrial system has, and so now we can buy our grain at a similar price, and therefore we can actually supply our eggs to the market at a better price.
You can be much more competitive,
and with far more nutrient density.
That's it. Well, that's once again, it's all about having those wins, isn't it?
It is, mate.
We were talking to Nick Holliday from Belvedere Farm about the idea of everyone getting together and having those different opportunities to not only to sell together, but also to really build things up together as a group. And obviously you guys are doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, we're actually doing some stuff with Nick, so that's
great.
That's good. But collective scale is a way in which small farmers can really build a food system, find viability without having to find huge amounts of capital to buy more land.
Yes.
If we do it collectively, we can find viability through the way in which we source our product and distribute our product.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely fantastic, mate. So we talked about the product that you've got, and it's and essentially how good it is, mate. You were saying before that yourself and Juanita you guys do your own deliveries?
Yeah, we do, mate. Yeah.
So whereabouts can people buy your produce, and where can they buy it, and how far do you deliver?
And what do we do? Yeah, cool. So we run an online farm shop. Essentially, is our main angle of how we distribute. We used to do farmers markets, but COVID actually forced us to reevaluate our whole distribution model. And so what we've developed is an on-farm market platform through our website, ecovalley.com.au, and people can just go there, and on a Sunday evening at 6 p.m. We open our online shop, and it stays open through until 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. And so people can just order straight through there, and that's where they'll find all of our produce, but also produce from other producers. So we run a thing called the For Good Food Collective. And so other small producers, be that farmers or bakers or makers who are producing ethically and sustainable produce can list on our little website. So then people can jump on and order it, and then Thursday and Friday we collate all those orders, put it all together, and then we bring it into our main distribution centre through a range of different pickup points through Brisbane, but most of South East Queensland. So basically we're here just west of the range, close to Warwick. So we have pickup points from Warwick through to Allora, through to Farmgate, into Ipswich, into Brisbane, and we go as far as we go to the northern suburbs of Brisbane. And what we encourage people to do is to come to pickup points. We do some home delivery, but ideally it's having these little pickup hubs where people come to, meet us, and not only that, they get to meet other people who are buying our produce as well. It's been beautiful to see those friendships build when people are picking up from the same location all the time and bump into each other, and then they get to know each other that way, which is pretty cool. So then the other big thing we do is we run a program called a CSA, which is a community supported agriculture. So after people have sort of been trying our products for a little while and really like the nutrient density and the flavour and all of those things associated with buying agroecologically grown food, they can then partner up with our farm for a period of 6 months to 12 months in a community supported agriculture. So they sign up, they pay a monthly fee, and then we bring in then a box of produce every month. Fantastic. And so that relationship is great because it builds a little bit of security for us as a farmer, but it also ensures that they have regular supply of produce throughout the year.
So you can, and that's all that's available on your website. All the information about that's on your website. Yeah. So it's just at ecovalleyfarm.com.au.
You've got it.
Excellent, mate. That's absolutely fantastic. That's similar to what we were talking about with Nick. Is that going to the Reiko markets? Is that right?
Yeah, we've only just started looking at Reiko, so most of our distribution is at our own sort of pickup points, usually through at wholesale cafes and restaurants that we supply to, and a couple of private households. But we've actually just started to launch a Reiko ring in partnership with some other farmers out this way, so that we can have a Reiko ring in Warwick, and so people can access a broad range of produce out in the regional towns, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. You know, in terms of actually, you know, imparting that knowledge as well of what you've been able to create. Do you guys do any courses or anything like that that people could learn from?
Yeah, we do. I probably wouldn't call them courses, but we have open days. Yeah. We're hoping in the new year to start doing some more farmer to farmer knowledge sharing. Great. Because I think that's such a powerful tool. Yeah. Where farmers can come together and talk about the struggles they're having and the challenges they're facing on their farm, and then you just farmers are sort of the experts of their own challenges, and sometimes it's just about having another farmer share what they've done to overcome a struggle that perhaps another farmer hadn't ever considered before.
Absolutely. Once again, it's that collaboration that goes together.
Yeah,
that's
such
awesome.
A powerful tool.
So what's next for you guys? You know, you've been going on for 7 years now, and what's coming up next?
Oh, mate, it's an ever developing challenges of agriculture, isn't it? You just never know what the next day brings. Look, mate, one of our big passions is building resilience through our farming model. Yeah. So we're actually cooking away a little bit of a plan to try to develop an on-farm processing facility, so that we can really honour our livestock from nose to tail, so that we can take that animal right through from the day it's born to the day from the day to the end product that we hand to someone that is gonna consume the meat. And so that's something we're really super passionate about, is ensuring that we develop that relationship and honour those animals. At the end of the day, we're primarily meat producers, which means that we have to share our lives with animals that ultimately become food for someone else, and so we want to ensure that we honour that process as much as we can.
Well, that way you've also got you've got the control to make sure that you are able to honour that animal through right through to the end. It doesn't. Exactly, if you send it away somewhere else, you lose that control at your gate.
Yeah, that's exactly right, mate. Yeah, and being able to really value add those products.
Certainly, mate. I think it's extremely exciting. What you're doing and how far things have been going, and there seems to be a lot more interest in the area and people actually making that change from conventional farming methods. To something that's a little bit more ethical. That seems to be a bit more of a conversation that's happening these days. Yeah,
definitely. I think people, I think the drought of I suppose it went from 2017 through to 2020, but 2019 was particularly difficult for our region. And I think that really made farmers and producers stop and take note and just say, oh man, we need to start really thinking about what we're doing here. Plus with consumer pressure, as consumers are becoming more aware and more attuned to some of the challenge, the reality of our current climate predicament, and that we have to make some changes and start sequestering carbon and start really, and there's been some amazing films like Kiss the Ground and other ones going on showing how critical soil health is in the environmental healing process. And so I think it's really exciting to see where we can be headed in the future.
Certainly.
And that really is. I guess we've got we're at a real tipping point for our farming industry. Because we've got a lot of senior farmers. I think the average age of farmers in Australia is around 65 years of age. And so the reality is that in the next 10 years or so, there's going to be a lot of land change hands. And it's really up to us as consumers to make that call on who's going to end up doing that. And that's where I would really encourage consumers to start looking for farmers who are farming agroecologically or regeneratively, that are focused on trying to build soil health, because the other option, I think, is a little scary because it'll go down an industrial model and we'll have robots growing our food. And I'm not too sure that with disconnection from relationship with land, that we can produce the same level of quality produce that we need.
It's just, it's to have anything artificial actually doing this is not going to be the answer. It's never going to work the way it should. But I think you said what you were saying about before, having the consumer is the consumer's got the power. It's all supply and demand.
They sure do. Yep, they sure do, mate. I think building those intimate relationships with the people that we feed and returning to that model of having those relationships, and consumers will ultimately decide how their food's produced. And so something we talk about is that when you as a consumer make a decision to engage with a regenerative farmer, those farmers who are using agroecological models are actually choosing to pay down the ecological debt that they've inherited through perhaps less than ideal farming practices. So some people say, the food is so expensive, but keep in mind, you are paying the true price. And so it's not that expensive. You just have chosen not to defer that expense on to either our children or our children's children, or through animals' welfare or through land degradation. So, I really implore consumers,
the eaters,
to get out there and find a farmer, put their hand in their hand, and go on the food journey together. Because it's an exciting one. It's it's a good time.
Most certainly. I think you're seeing that happening more in cafes, and you're seeing that happening more in restaurants where they're actually advertising, this is where we get our meat from, this is where we get our ham from, our eggs, our bread's made from here. You're actually seeing that happening. We've got a cafe up here, Soma, that actually does that as well. Farmer and Son here does that too. Kandanga Farm Store does it as well. There's all these different places around, and that's just our local ones. But they're saying this is where this is coming from. It's great.
Because, it's awesome because you're building that relationship. And so there's an exciting future. In that food system. Absolutely.
We've been putting on all our socials and whatnot as well. We've just been making a hashtag is that demand real food. And that's really what it is. Yep,
absolutely.
Fantastic. Mate, this is really, really, really cool, what we've been talking about, mate. I really, really appreciate your time too. And Randal, for every guest we have that comes on, we actually run through our 60 and 60. So six questions in 60 seconds. And you got 1 more minute for us?
Yep, let's do it.
Fantastic. Mate, here we go. So, mate, what's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
I seek on every day to be a patient, attentive observer and build an intimate relationship with my landscape, my animals, the community that I live in.
That's I think that's kind of something we can all aspire to, actually. That being that patient observer is absolutely important. And, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Reality is relative to one's own experience.
Perfect. So now, what's the one thing that you're most fired up about today?
Fired up about today. I am fired up about seeing lovely new shoots of our diverse cover crops springing out of the soil.
Brilliant. If you could recommend one book or podcast to our audience, what would that be and why?
One book or podcast, I would read Dark Emu by Bruce Pascoe, or Call of the Reed Warbler by Charles Massey.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Or Call of the Reed Warbler.
Call of the Reed
Charles
Warbler.
Massey.
Okay, all right. I'll have to look that one up. So, and what personal goals are you hoping to achieve in the next 12 months?
Personal goals in the next 12 months. We would like to, in 12 months' time, have an on-farm processing facility for our animals.
Fantastic. All right, the mystery question we go through for everyone. Well, not the same question, but let's go through the mystery one. Okay. If you could choose one song to play for everyone when you walked into a room for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Killing in the Name Of.
Killing in the Name Of. All right, mate. For some people, you might need to explain why, mate.
Oh, mate, I just think sometimes we get a bit angsty, but I think we have to fight against the man, build intimate relationships, and push forward sometimes. And she's a strong song,
absolutely.
But I think it gives you the buzz to drive forward.
Well, mate, thank you so much for that. And with that, I won't do what you tell me, and I won't add any more of that one. So, but is there anything that we haven't covered tonight that you wanted to have a bit of a chat about?
Oh, mate, no, I think we've had a great chat. Mate, I think I'd encourage everybody to get out there, get to know your farmer. For every hand that touches food, that in between the farmer and the person that's going to consume it, waste is created. So if we can get our hands together, the person that's going to eat the food and the person that grew the food, and pass that food from one to the other, we are going to be in a far better situation on a global climate scenario.
Yeah.
So that would be what I would encourage everyone to do. Get out there and find a farmer. We're not as scary as we might appear.
Absolutely, mate. That's absolutely fantastic. And look, thank you so much for your time. And before you go, mate, do you reckon you could sing a few bars of that song for us? Give us your theme song.
No, I cannot.
All right, everyone is thoroughly disappointed, but that's okay. Great, mate. It's been great talking to you, bud. Look, have a great time. And to everybody else, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Cheers, eh?
What a great chat that was. The idea of becoming a conscious observer and taking that interest in your property and going through and looking at what happens when it happens. It's vital information that can be shared, not just amongst the agricultural community, but also into your own gardens and your own plantings. It was a great chat. I'm sure you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you next time.